Hey everybody. I'm still here. I'm sort of missing the doing these from my car, which I really enjoy because I can do it from all kinds of different places. But these days I've been doing it on a Thursday, and I have been here basically every Thursday for a while. I got to see what I can do about that. This week was definitely a week when I was here every day, and I will be here again tomorrow. Because of course the big event this week from the legislature is our opening day was on Wednesday. And so that's the official start of session. We come into session, and then we have a joint session at which the governor addresses us. And joint session meaning that the Senate comes to our house and sits in the well, and the governor addresses us, basically outlining his budget priorities for the year. And so this week does get consumed with the budget process, the beginning of the budget process. I mean, we, of course, in finance have been chewing up, making our lists and thinking about what things we want to work on this year and what kinds of relief we can, sustainably provide to people. But it's the governor, in the formal process, the governor makes the first step by providing us with a budget. And so, for example, this week was consumed with, we had a pre-brief. We, the financial leaders and senior staff, had a pre-brief on the budget on Tuesday, which they, those of you who've ever, they delivered a PowerPoint presentation, a slide deck, but they don't give us the slide deck because everything's embargoed until the governor actually, publicly releases the budget. And so we have to watch quickly and take a lot of notes and discuss it among ourselves and try to digest as much as we can, which we did on Tuesday. And then the governor gives his presentation, and we get the official copy of the budget with a lot of detail, although not all the detail, on Wednesday. And then in terms of process, the Office of Policy and Management, which oversees the budget, presented to the Appropriations Committee today, and they will present to the Finance Committee tomorrow. So we have a chance to, publicly engage with the new Secretary of OPM on the details of the budget, both from the spending and from the revenue side. So that's tomorrow, and so I'm busy going through this to write up some notes. And it also means that, lots of meetings in between, because we're trying to digest what's in here, and some of which we've discussed with the governor before, some of which is a little bit new, and also he's also taken the position of, it's a very open conversation. He's laid out some priorities, and there's some flexibility in some of them, and so we're figuring out where that flexibility is. We also, beginning of session was a little bit unusual this year, because usually it's ceremonial in the governor's presentation and all the budget things I refer to, but this year we also passed a bill. And the Senate went first on Wednesday, and the House came into session on Thursday to do the bill. And because it was financial in nature, I brought it out along with my very good partner, Representative Tony Walker, who chairs the Appropriations Committee, and she and I, between the two of us, answered the questions. This bill was a continuation, basically, of legislation we passed in special session in November, which took some unanticipated revenues, $500 million in unanticipated revenues, and kept it in our held it in our rainy day fund, and allowed it to be spent on particular priorities, particularly that respond to federal action, much of which comes out of H.R. 1, the federal budget bill, but also other future actions that cut federal revenues, resources coming to the state of Connecticut. So it allows us to use that, what was originally $500 million, for those kinds of cuts, basically federal cuts. And we originally passed that in November when we were not in session, and we gave the power to the governor, because we were not in session, to make those recommendations, and then a group of leaders in the assembly could vote it up or down. We could veto it, essentially. But that legislation expired with the start of session, and so we renewed it slightly differently. This time around we extended it with the same pot of money, about excuse me, there's about $330 million of it left that hasn't been spent. So nothing has been added to it. It's the same pot of money, but it's now in a specifically named fund, which is the Federal Cuts Response Fund. I think it's healthy to keep that distinct from the Budget Reserve Fund, which is dedicated to protecting us from recession. and again, that the governor could spend. And it's a little different now. We are in session, but we have a much more cumbersome, for lots of good reasons, process in terms of how we appropriate, and we will pass a budget. Our an amendment this year, tweak to our 2-year, over $50 billion budget. So that process will go on as usual, but this gives us an ability to respond to the capricious and exigent, urgent acts of the federal government, which we have learned, we don't get a lot of notice on, and sometimes the notice goes back and forth. It's canceled, it's back on, no, it's canceled. And it allows, because the governor can act more quickly than we can, we still have to, approve it, but it gives us some funds that we can use on an emergency basis, because as we discussed today, the emergency is ongoing. And it has, the federal shutdowns have had something to do with it, but that's not really the full story, because we have watched a president operate basically, refusing to spend appropriated funds, and so there's a lot of capriciousness going on there, and we need the ability with some subset of our funds to act quickly. So we debated that in the House today, and passed that legislation. So that took up a little extra time, and it also wreaks a lot of havoc on our schedules, because we had some other hiccups this morning that some people acting inappropriately in chamber. We have rules about decorum in chamber, and so we had to have a little in-house business to be dealt with, and that meant our debate started a little bit late, which meant that I then had to cancel some meetings in the afternoon because I was on the floor presenting the bill, so I can't, when other bills are getting debated, often I can have other meetings or, get stuff done when I'm in chamber. Not today. So if you were one of those people that I rescheduled, my apology. I hope I will be able to see you tomorrow or early next week. So, and it's that unpredictable nature of when session started, but it also is, for example, when we finished session today, I'd already had to cancel one meeting because session went late, and then another one I had to delay until tomorrow because it was still going, and I also hadn't eaten anything, and having a call when you hadn't eaten all day is not a good idea. And then, we walk into the speaker's office to have a conversation, and because we're all there in the room, we break down the budget and talk about our ideas and, where the governor is on various things. And we talk to our nonpartisan staff, and that turns into a whole conversation. So there's things that happen sort of spontaneously, and that's the beauty of actually being in here as in person and talking to people. There's a big difference between that and doing everything on a screen. So it does, I apologize in advance because it does wreak havoc on my schedule a little bit, but I do my best to reschedule things as quickly as possible. So lots going on next week, or this weekend. It's Jump Fest weekend. I fully intend to be out at Jump Fest at least at some point this weekend, and I hear there's another sporting contest on Sunday, which I will definitely watch with my family. Although I grew up in Ohio, so I'm a Browns fan, so I don't really have a hometown team to root for, but we will enjoy watching that. And then for those of you who live in Salisbury, we have a town meeting coming up on Wednesday night, so maybe I'll see some of you there. Have a great weekend, stay warm, and maybe I'll see you out there at ski jumps.